everyone, it's Tuesday, February 11th, and welcome to today's podcast. I'm Mohana Navarre, and I'm honored to be hosting this conversation in recognition of the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. Science has the power to transform lives, but it's the people behind the breakthroughs who really drive change. Today, I'm joined by four remarkable women from Open Health who are making an impact in their field and helping our business deliver innovative solutions that have a positive impact on commercial and patient outcomes. First, we have Grace Fox, Associate Director of Strategic Market Access and a member of Evidence and Access's Scientific Office, Linda Pronk, a Senior Research Analyst working in the Modeling and Meta-Analysis Center of Excellence, Maddie Pope, a Scientific Director, and Lucy Harrison-Brown, an Account Director, both working in the Scientific Communications practice at Open Health. Welcome, everybody. I'm really looking forward to this conversation and to hearing more about your experiences. So let's get started. Grace, I'm going to start with you. Can you briefly describe your role at Open Health?
Sure. So at Open Health, I focus on delivering strategic HEOR and market access solutions to help clients navigate the complexities of the global healthcare landscape. So my role focuses on leading evidence generation initiatives, developing value communication strategies, and ensuring that innovative therapies reach the right patients at the right time. And I also work closely with a lot of cross-functional teams to align both clinical, economic, and real-world evidence for stakeholders.
And what initially attracted you to the field of market access?
So my background is in life sciences, and this really led me to appreciate the critical role of evidence and healthcare decision-making very early on. And HEOR and market access stood out to me as it's a very dynamic field where science really meets strategy. This gave me an opportunity to shape how innovative treatments are valued and adopted globally. It kind of gives me an opportunity to bridge clinical research, health economics, and policy to ultimately improve patient outcomes.
Yeah, it's really cool. And have you seen the role of women evolve within HEOR and market access?
Yeah, I think over, especially the past few years, I've seen women take on more influential roles in the space and, ultimately lead global research teams and shape policy discussions. I think there's greater recognition of the perspectives that women bring to value assessment, pricing, and reimbursement strategies. And while there is a lot of progress has been made, I think there is a lot of work to do in ensuring that representation, especially at the highest levels of decision making, are equitable across the board.
What do you think needs to change for more women to step into strategic roles, or how can we address the barriers?
So I think one of the largest challenges is visibility of women in leadership positions. I think many of the women in this space are very highly skilled, but they don't always have the same sponsorship or mentorship opportunities as their male counterparts. So I think organizations like Open Health need to be very intentional in creating leadership pathways, offering mentorship programs, and ensuring that we're addressing perhaps in many cases unconscious biases in hiring and promotion. So outside of that, I think it's important for companies to foster a culture that supports work-life balance, and that's I think a very important way to retain top female talent in strategic roles.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you treat people well, they in turn can produce really great stuff.
Absolutely.
As a leader in this space, what advice would you give young women who want to enter market access but may feel a little bit intimidated by the gender biases or the leadership gaps?
So I would encourage young women in this space to build their own confidence and in their expertise and seek out mentors early on that can help them guide their careers. This space requires, strong analytical skills, strategic thinking, and communication abilities. They're very, very highly valued, and women bring these to the table in abundance across the board. So I would encourage women to not hesitate to network, advocate for yourselves, and take on leadership opportunities, particularly when you feel like they're outside of your comfort zone, because your perspectives and contributions are really needed.
Yeah, I agree. And is there a moment in your career where you felt particularly proud as a woman in science?
So I think there are many moments that come to mind when you ask that question, but I think the common thread has always been about the opportunity to mentor other women to do their best work, whether that's, leading complex HEOR projects, particularly those that influence payer decision making, seeing the the real impact of mentorship has been wonderful, as I have had just incredible women as mentors throughout my career. So just the opportunity to give back in that way to others, I think, is what I'm most proud of at this time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And speaking as somebody who's quite early on in their career, mentorship and the guidance that I get is really important. And Linda, you're a senior research analyst now at Open Health, but you started your career here, right? Can you tell us a little bit about your work in modeling and meta-analysis?
Yes, sure. Yeah, indeed. I started my career here at Open Health in modeling and meta-analysis. I came from a statistical background, and you can imagine that I wasn't really familiar with the field. So I also didn't really know whether the field had to offer what I was looking for. What I did know is that I really wanted to do something in healthcare. You know, what Grace also said, I wanted to give back to the patients, to support in that, using my skills that I had and have. And it very quickly became known that I really felt in place here. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity here for females, but also people in general to develop themselves. And as Grace said, it's not necessarily about the skills that we bring. I mean, obviously, it's a very important part of the reason why we are here at the practice, but how you carry yourself, especially your communication skills, how you present yourself, the confidence you have in yourself is something that makes a difference in our field.
Yeah, and how do you think junior professionals who are just entering the field of HEOR can build confidence in a field that's dominated by quite experienced researchers?
I find it a little bit of a difficult question, actually, but I do feel like what Grace mentioned previously really resonated with me. So finding mentors early on, finding people that you feel like you can confide in, also voicing your interests early on, your needs, how you want to develop yourself, what you want to contribute, I think is very important, because you can only be given these opportunities if people know that you are interested in these things. And definitely putting yourself forward makes you able to seize these types of opportunities.
Yeah, so I guess you have to be curious and be bold and brave as well, and ask for the things that you want, and put yourself in situations that that you want to be in.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting that you say, you know, brave and bold, because is it really brave and bold, or is it just a very natural thing to do?
Yeah, that's true. And I guess different work cultures look at it differently as well. You work in the Netherlands, which is a lot more direct. And so I wonder if that helps in terms of being able to advocate for yourself.
I definitely feel like sometimes the bar is lower for us compared with other cultures to voice our interests, to be ourselves, to yeah, really put ourselves out there. I mean, definitely, I think all of us will know that it can definitely be challenging as a female to put yourself out there, depending obviously on the environment. But yes, I definitely believe personally that it's a very motivating environment to put yourself out there and to really make known how you want to develop yourself and to be supported in that.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. And Maddie, can you tell us a little bit about your role as scientific director and what drew you to pursue a career in scientific communications?
Yeah, sure. So as a scientific director, my role really working in the communication space. So a lot of what we develop ends up in the hands of prescribing physicians. And my role is to ensure that all of those materials and everything we do hits the mark both on a scientific and a strategic level. And I think part of, what I love most about my role right now is that I get to act as a strategic partner for my clients in the pharma industry, and really help to kind of guide them and also ensure that they're hitting on their strategic goals. And also kind of similarly to what Grace said, I also now have the opportunity to help my team to grow and learn about, not just being an expert in science, but building that kind of understanding of the business perspective of what we're doing and how that impacts our clients so that we can make sure that we're delivering what they need. And yeah, to your second question, what attracted me to scientific communications initially, I think, was the opportunity to blend creativity with science. I think, like a lot of people, I didn't know this industry existed for quite a while. And I was in the third year of my PhD in genetics. I have a background in genetics. And yeah, it wasn't until I went to a careers event and learned that scientific communications existed and realized that this could be the perfect opportunity for me. I was writing up my thesis at the time, really enjoying the storytelling aspect of it and looking to move out of academia. And yeah, I felt like this could offer me the perfect blend. And I guess I was right, because I'm still here nearly 10 years later. So yeah.
Yeah, it's good to be at a company where you can also evolve and grow along with it, because a lot changes at Open Health, but it's also great to be able to evolve with it. And how do you think the field of scientific communication has evolved, particularly regarding the representation of women?
This is a really interesting question. I think the industry has evolved hugely, like in many other aspects, like, the way we use technology, we're communicating digitally a lot more. But when I thought about it from the perspective of representation of women, actually, I feel like we were quite ahead of the curve. And even when I first started, there were, it's a very female heavy industry, and there were quite a lot of women in leadership roles, which I think is why, again, I've loved it so much. I've remained in this industry. So yeah, weirdly, I think we're kind of doing quite well in that respect. But I think what has changed probably is on the side of our clients. In pharma, I think when I first started, a lot of my lead clients were middle-aged white men. And now I'm definitely starting to, we're getting a lot more women in those leading client roles. And I can be on a call now where every single member is a woman, and that just feels so good.
We talked about this a little bit before, but what role has mentorship played in your career growth? Can you share a moment where mentorship has had a significant impact on you?
I think it's had a huge and vital impact throughout my whole career, and especially I think since joining Open Health, particularly, I've been mentored by some really incredible women, and I think just they've given me space to kind of explore what my niche might be in the industry, but also really helped me with challenges that, like, I personally have struggled with in terms of confidence, imposter syndrome, helping me to work through that. I think, from other women who've been there and, they've kind of made it, I guess. Mentorship is so important. And yeah, I think it's particularly for women, because we do struggle in that aspect, of confidence or feeling like we belong or, have permission to be here.
Yeah, that's true. And to have somebody championing you is really helpful. And it's even more so when they understand where you're coming from and the struggles that you might face. What advice would you give to young women looking to shape the future of scientific communications?
I have a couple, and one directly relates, I guess, to what I was just talking about in terms of that confidence aspect. This is some advice that's actually like directly taken from a recent piece of performance review feedback that I got, and it resonated with me so much, not just personally, but I felt like it's something I wanted to tell to so many other women that I work with. And for context, we follow the stop, start, continue framework for feedback. And it was stop doubting yourself, start believing in yourself, and continue being awesome. And I just thought that's such a mantra, I think, for so many women, especially at that junior level. If you can actually have the confidence, like Linda was saying, to advocate for yourself, yeah, that is massive. And secondly, similarly, again, like, prioritize yourself. I think there is a little bit of a temptation in our industry. It's very high pressured. There's a lot of timelines, deadlines. There's a lot of, I think, tendency sometimes to prioritize, the work, the clients, but really taking time for yourself, because you can't function at your best if you're not rested and have balance in your life. So, it does have to come from the workplace culture, but also it needs to come from you as well. And you need to believe that you can, like, have balance and step back.
Yeah. Speaking of balance, Lucy, as an account director, how do you balance the business and science aspects of being in your role?
Absolutely. Well, our business is selling our scientific expertise. So the business and scientific aspects of our job are extremely interlinked. You know, as we partner for our clients, we should always propose and deliver projects with our client's strategy front of mind. For example, if a new competitor is due to be launched in our client's therapy area, we can suggest a competitor workshop or work with our clients to better differentiate ourselves from the competitor. We can also use our scientific expertise to identify new areas for business growth. For example, we can capitalize on new data releases for organic growth. So yeah, it's absolutely imperative that we combine the science with the business objectives.
That's really interesting. And how does your identity as a woman in science shape your approach to your work?
I found this question quite difficult. I'm very grateful for all the opportunities I've received as a woman in science. However, is it controversial to say that I think my sex is a bit irrelevant? In this role, I have high standards of everyone to ensure that we're delivering the best quality work for our clients, and I hold everybody accountable to exactly the same standards.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a great way of looking at it. It's totally merit-based and based on your work, and that's what should count. And what do you think are key skills for anyone looking to grow into client-facing roles within scientific communications?
I think you've definitely got to be a clear and confident communicator. This job involves constant communication with many stakeholders to ensure that our projects are running smoothly. We're also responsible for selling projects to clients, which requires strong and persuasive communication skills. But you've also got to be highly organised and meticulous with very high attention to detail to ensure that nothing's missed and we're delivering to the highest possible standards.
And have you noticed shifts in how women are represented in decision-making roles in the industry?
I'm very much in agreement with Maddie. I feel like it's a very female-dominated industry, but previously I've had a lot of male clients. However, I'm presently working with only female clients across all of my accounts, and they're incredibly important within their respective companies and have lots of very, important, strong decision-making roles. So I don't think that being a female should hold anybody back from achieving their career aspirations in pharma, irrespective of what their ambitions are.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, 2025 marks the 10th anniversary of the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. And so this is a question for all of you. Looking at the next decade, where do you see the future of women in your field, and what changes would you hope to see?
I think for me, as arguably the youngest female here, probably, I came straight into this job out of university, and I've definitely seen that as Maddie and the other ladies already said, female representation is quite high in this company, which is really nice to see, because obviously coming from statistics, historically that was definitely not the case, which is fine. But because of the developments that we've seen in the last few years, we actually see that females are very much also able to support themselves in this type of field. And probably what we are going to see is just that this is going to increase a lot more. So I'm expecting a lot more females to join the field and see much more of a balance in the distribution of males and females. And I hope that eventually, my biggest wish would be is that comes and goes very naturally, so that, as we already alluded to, it would be nice if sex eventually didn't really matter as much anymore as a factor, but it would be somewhat of a background thing. So people are actually contributing and growing in the field because of their skills and who they are, rather than because of their sex, because we want more females, for example, to take higher roles. It should just happen naturally that because females have these types of skills, they also eventually get these types of opportunities and these types of roles and these types of responsibilities.
I feel like all I want to say is amen. I'm a Southern Baptist, and that's what we say when we agree. The period in which we are all working in science has been referred to as the golden era. There is so much innovation, so much technology that is coming to the forefront. I think that if representation becomes more equal, that the next era of science will become a platinum period. I think there is nothing holding back science broadly from achieving its greatest impact. And with the growing representation of women, that's what I'm most excited about. What a privilege it is to be in science at this exact moment. in history. I think a lot of the folks that laid the groundwork for us, I've been reminding myself of the stories of the women that won the first Nobel Prizes in science. If they would have been so excited to live in this period, and I think that places a lot of ownership on us to really drive forward, where they laid such a great foundation for us. So I think what a great opportunity to be in science.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I think, on your subject of innovation, but a slightly different spin, I think what we maybe need going forward is a little bit more innovation around how we can make more space for women to continue excelling, like throughout all the different periods of their life. Because I think, I can't speak to this directly because I'm not a mother, but I think motherhood is definitely a period that becomes more challenging for women in their careers because there's so much going on. There's a huge cognitive burden that we bear, not even as mothers, just as women, having to kind of, we do feel like we shoulder quite a lot of stuff outside of work. If there can be innovation around flexible working, just things like that can really support women in this industry to remain here and not feel like it's challenging and that they need to explore alternative options when they get to that stage, I think will really help to retain, and then maybe we will start to see even more women in those really senior leadership positions.
I totally agree with Maddie. I think we've made enormous progress since COVID with flexible working, but I'm worrying that we're actually seeing more companies insisting compulsory office working, and I don't want that to limit us from balancing motherhood and responsibilities outside of work and with work in future.
I see your point, and even though over the past decade more women have stepped into leadership roles, there's still work to be done to ensure equal opportunities, representation, and support. Well, this has been a great conversation, and it's clear that each of you is making an impact in your field. So thank you, Grace, Linda, Maddie, and Lucy for sharing your stories and insights. It's been a privilege to hear from you today, and to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, and here's to another decade of progress for women and girls in science.
Thank you, Mahana.
Thanks.
Thank you.